Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 20. I've made it here for the second grouping. I missed 19 and came back for 20 of Genre Blender, the podcast that celebrates all things storytelling. My name is Kris.
And I'm Ryan, and today's topic is Arthouse and Auteur Cinema.
I can't wait. What a great topic. Who came up with this one? Legend.
Gee, I wonder. Someone was inspired after last fortnight's episode, I do believe.
That's right. Jack, you have a lot to answer for because the rabbit holes my brain has gone down to do with movies and cinema over the last fortnight is ridiculous.
So I think both of us actually haven't watched as many movies in the last probably year as we have like recently. And you having a
No.
few plane rides as well. So
Yeah,
that worked out
and
well.
although for this plane ride, I've got another one tomorrow, and I've downloaded like Shark Week stuff, so I'm gonna scar
Okay.
whoever is next to me because I'm in an emergency aisle as well. So I'm like, hey, we're going over water, and I'm watching all these things about shark attacks. Sorry about that. Um,
Sorry, not sorry.
I was just trying to look because yeah, since that episode I watched it, I think I've watched maybe 4 or 5 movies, which is just like not a thing. Um, for me. So I think I'm up to maybe 16 for the year, maybe
Are you
17.
are you beating me again?
I don't
Okay.
know.
We gotta do something about that.
We'll discuss off camera in the parking lot to see who's beating who.
With fisticuffs,
Yeah,
yeah.
with 50 cars, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm at 16 for the year.
Damn, okay. I think I'm at 14. So yeah, we've got some catching up to do.
I do have flights coming up, so you may be at a disadvantage there.
That's true. Although I am playing a game that's very much a second screen
Mm,
kind of game, so and we'll talk about that.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's some films in my future, I think.
All right. Well, I forgot how we do this. Oh, news. News is the first segment, Ryan. I
News is
was
a thing now, apparently.
I have news for us. All right. So, the news segment of Genre Blender, which I've decided to put in here, I'm going to run fairly quickly, so hopefully the audience can still hear me. For movies and TV, we have Wheel of Time being officially cancelled by Prime, which is a decision that is being well met by fans of the books, but not well met by fans of the TV of the actual show, which has been quite interesting to see unfold as someone who's only read like the first 4 books and enjoyed the books and enjoyed the show for the different mediums that they came in. Um, there's like a conspiracy theory that HBO Max will pick it up, but I don't believe that will be the case. We also have The Devil Wears Prada 2 getting an official premiere date for May 2026, which is quite exciting for all of us people who were in the closet around the time the first one came out. So that's
Oh boy.
that'll be really good. I can't wait. Will I drag my family to go and see that in the cinema? Very likely. Um,
Nice.
now, book news, not really book related, but author Taylor Jenkins Reid has come out as bisexual in an interview with Time magazine, which is, we just say slay queen for the queer community. Go you good thing. We love to see it. Which takes us to gaming. So Gex the Gecko, I've already nerded out about this to Ryan. Gex the Gecko is getting a relaunch across the platforms on June 16th. I can't wait to play Enter the Gecko again, which was number 2. I just remember this little lizard like wearing a tuxedo and like climbing over a ship. 10 out of 10 gaming. I've never played the first one or the third one, but I can't wait to experience it all again. Stardew Valley creator Eric Barone has teased that he may eventually make a return and make a Stardew Valley 2, but he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as the guy that just makes Stardew Valley. I know everyone in my personal household is saying, please give us the Haunted Chocolatier. We've been waiting for years. We're ready for it.
Yeah.
And my last bit of gaming news is Cyberpunk 2077 sequel has decided to add a new city in as well as Night City, and I think I can speak for everyone when we say please take your time
I
before releasing
completely
the
missed
sequel.
this. Is this a sequel or is this DLC?
No, it's a sequel. This is the
Ah,
official sequel to
okay.
Cyberpunk 2077, and we're all like, it's too soon. We saw what happened to the first one. It's too
Yeah,
soon.
please take your time. Okay, I have some research to do after this episode. That's exciting. Because also Witcher 4 is in progress, so
Didn't that just have its 10-year anniversary as
I
well? And
think
it's still like
so.
one of the most played games. I still fucking hate
Yeah.
it, but
I've tried so many
I've
times.
tried.
We
I've
both
tried
have.
twice and I've given up.
Yeah. 100%. It's actually nice segue into just a quick news on I guess Switch 2. specs are out, so the internet's kind of going crazy at the moment over that. A lot of deep dive videos into what could that mean, and how a game's going to play. But Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a launch title for the Switch 2. It's quite exciting. It looks great. It looks super optimized. So I mean, that's exciting to hear that there's going to be a sequel, because I mean, surely that's going to be on Switch 2 down the track, whenever that's out. So yeah, that'll be kind of cool to play it handheld.
I feel like the future of gaming is going to be handheld.
It's
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
both,
I
right?
feel like
Yeah,
that's the way we're leaning. Um, at least the news that I've been keeping apprised of has all been handheld gaming related.
it's having its heyday.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
it's never been better if you're a handheld gamer. But yeah, I think that flexible style of gaming, being able to play on a big screen and then handheld and have the same games with you, I think that's where it's going to be at.
Speaking of games, getting into our read watch play, do you want to tell us about? You told me you were buying this game a second time on the Switch too, and it's
I haven't
already
yet, to be
ridiculously
fair.
expensive.
Oh, it is actually really expensive, and in Australia especially. I think it's like $60 in the US. So like a regular
I think
priced game.
I was looking at it on just the Switch because I've just got the OLED and I've got no plans to upgrade to Switch 2. I think my next console will probably be whatever happens with portable gaming, like a Steam Deck or a Rug Ally or whatever that is,
Mhm.
um, after the Switch 2 comes out. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
You,
still
you,
$120 on the Switch.
yeah. So the game we're talking about is Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals time. Yeah, it is kind of like, I mean, the way I pitched it to you was it's kind of like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. If both of those had a baby, it would be this. It's kind of like that because it's got a bit of everything. I feel like this is the game for everyone, because no matter how you kind of play games, I'm not really big into those kind of games. I like Animal Crossing, not so much Stardew, as we've talked about before. But this is perfect because it has the crafting, it has the gathering materials, it has the story as well. The story is actually pretty good. And then it also has all of these other like there's the house decorating aspect to it. There's all of that stuff all packed into one game. So it's actually massive, and the map on it is massive as well.
Wasn't there like multiple different islands and things like that you can go and
There
venture
is,
out
and you
to?
can go back in time as well. So you've got different islands, and then the map on those is huge. And then there's other islands that unlock, and then you can go back in time and visit the same island. But anyway, it's huge. It's really good. Level 5, they've obviously they do some pretty high quality games. They've got the Professor Layton, that series
Oh
as well.
yeah,
So yeah, a lot of fans of the level 5. But it's unreal. I think the internet's going a bit crazy over this game at the moment. A lot of people who didn't really expect a lot are kind of really surprised. And then for some people, they're saying this is game of the year. So anyway, I'm
yeah.
I'm
Look,
addicted to it.
I'll get it
Yeah,
eventually, but I just don't know which platform to get it on. Whether I go
yeah,
Steam with the computer that you won't hear when you listen to the episode, but like Ryan can hear right now, which is struggling for life,
indeed.
or get it on the Switch. But it's
Yeah, it's
cross-play,
it's
so
it's cross play,
yeah.
cross save, multi platform. It's on everything, I think. So it really, yeah, it doesn't matter too much. I've got it on Steam for the Steam Deck. That's how I'm playing it currently. They have announced that they're going to release a Switch 2 version, but I think if you buy the Switch 1 version, it's going to be a paid upgrade. So I haven't bought it on
Right.
Switch yet,
Yeah,
but I
fair
probably
enough.
will when the Switch 2 comes out, because that's all I want to play. So
I'm
we'll see.
interested to see like when the hype dies down, what the hours played are.
I'm not
Also, audience, if you tell us that you want a multiplayer Stardew, I'll make it happen with Ryan on the channel.
Oh, jeez. It's the first I'm
That's
hearing about
cruel.
it.
No, I wouldn't make you do that. Well,
I'd maybe play it on Switch
maybe.
too. So,
We'll see.
we'll
All
see.
right. So, any other games, movies, books that you've been reading?
Yeah, I've been playing more Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as well, just chugging along with that. Not finished yet. It's a big game, but having fun with it. It's great. That was before Fantasy Life I, of course, and now I don't think I'll be playing any other games ever again. But other than that, it's pretty good. And then reading, I'm still reading. I should have been done with this because it's a really short book, but Rachel Cusk's Outline, like a 250-page book. I'm still reading it. But also Norwegian Wood by Murakami. So I'm reading both of those. I've dropped a whole bunch of books that I was like halfway through in the middle of, and then just they fell by the wayside. And I just need to focus down on just a few at a time. Otherwise, nothing's going to get done. So those are the two for now. So by next episode, they should be finished. Maybe.
It's I've also had like a trash reading month, but that's because when I go away for work and I went the first week of the month, I'm going again tomorrow for the last week of the month. I just don't have a chance. Like I think I read in the airports, basically waiting for the plane, and then that's pretty much it because they're stacked weeks. You know what it's like going on work trips. Like when you get back to the hotel, you're like, I have all these good intentions. I'm going to bed. Like
Yep, good night.
I'm putting something dumb on and I'm going to bed.
Yeah, the brain is tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about movies the last 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Or
so
all of them for this episode?
I think actually not all of them. So I did watch Baby Driver
Yeah.
from
Such a
Jack's
great movie.
recommendation. Yeah, Edgar Wright. I loved it. Probably not as much as Jack loves it, but I did love it, and I can see what he was talking about with the like the fast pacedness of it, and how like punctuated it is, and I guess the musical elements to it. It's pretty cool. I do like that. Um, and I also watched John Wick for the first time because he mentioned that, and I was just like, yeah, I've never watched that, but it's been on my to watch list forever. I actually liked it. It wasn't like the best movie in the world, but it was great. I had a good time with it.
Only,
It's pretty sad at the beginning, actually.
yeah. Well,
I wasn't
no
prepared for that.
spoilers, but like it
No,
was not a fun beginning. I mean, I
no.
don't feel like John Wick's life is overly fun. Like
Well,
the,
now I know
yeah,
that.
the second one is great. The third one was I went to the cinema, and you know how good I am at staying up late. I went to a 9 p.m. showing. It was finishing at midnight. I made it through the whole thing, but I need you to get to the third one and watch it. And there's a scene with stairs, and it's the longest fucking scene of a movie. This guy like falls down the stairs like 20 times. I was like, "Get up! Oh my god!"
The whole movie's just
The whole
stairs.
movie is just
Yeah,
stairs.
that's funny.
Yeah, the
Yeah, cool.
ballerina's coming out, which is like the next installment of it, which I'm looking forward to. They're good action flicks.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, yeah, there you go. There's not much. Actually, no, I was gonna say there's not much more to them, but they're actually quite what's the word? I don't know, intelligent action flicks. Like there's more substance in them than you know than that. Speaking of substance, so yes, I did watch, and we'll talk about these. That was completely by accident. I did watch The Substance,
Mm.
and The Lighthouse. By I saw your notes, and I was like, well, I need to watch these as well. I've got some homework to do, so we'll talk about these more. But yeah, I did watch those. So I've watched four movies in the span of 2 weeks, which is unheard of for me. So hey.
I can't wait to talk about the last 15 minutes of the substance. It was spoiler alert, it was fucked. Like I don't
Yes.
have any other words for it. Um cool. That's I love that for you.
Yeah,
Those are the
that's
two
it. Yeah.
movies that you watch.
Yeah, those two, because I knew we would talk about them.
Um
How about yourself? What you been watching, reading, playing?
well, I've just picked up a couple of books again because I did a lot of beta and alpha and like sensitivity reading, and I can't talk about it too much, but I just did a sensitivity read for a Kiwi author called Kenneth Fuller, and it was my favorite sensitivity beta like pre-launch read that I've ever done, and it was very quietly but also in your face political, and it's written by an asexual author about different and like nuances with asexual experience and identity and gender, and it was funny, like it was witty, it was entertaining, it was like action packed as well, it was written well. There's a lot of Aussie and Kiwiisms in there. They had a substance called vodamite, which was a culinary monstrosity, and I chuckled for 5 minutes. It was so good. So I want to give a shout out to Kenneth because legitimately like one of my favorite things that I've read this year, and being at the level where it's not ready to go to public is amazing to have it like that good. So I'll be shouting that one from the rooftops when it's ready to go. I picked up War of the Flowers by Tad Williams. So I've not read Tad Williams before. This is a bit of it's fantasy but also surrealism, I guess. It's good, like it's written well, quietly funny. There's a character in here called Applecore which is, I don't know, you can see her head on the bottom here, who's like this fairy who's taking this musician around, and he's a bit selfish and whatever, and she's just like, I'm not taking your shit. I'm just not. As of like this tiny fairy, which was amazing. A little bit male gazy, which I'm not vibing with a lot, but like written in the 80s by a white fantasy
Yeah,
author,
I was
so I
gonna
feel
ask
like
when. Yeah.
product of the time. Well, actually, no, this is early 2000s, I think. I'll check after. But it's written really well. It's funny. And then I picked up Level Ascension by David Dalglish, which is a literary RPG. It's a book too, so I won't say too much about that. But I had a Libro credit. It had just come out. I was like, oh, I am reading that series. Let's see if I can finish a series and start a series in the same year. Amazing. Um, in terms of watching, most of the stuff I have will be to talk about today, but one thing that is not is The Social Network. I never watched it before.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I saw it was leaving, and like, there's a lot of discourse about Zuckerberg and Meta and shit happening right now. It's like, well, it was leaving Netflix, and I was like, well, there's never a better time. And I thought I would watch half, because at 9 o'clock when I started it, watch half and then watch half the next day. But I ended up just watching the whole thing. It was really entertaining and quite well done, so I enjoyed it a lot. Like, well acted, um, and yeah, entertaining enough for a medium that I didn't think would be that entertaining for about
Yeah.
Facebook.
I, I
Uh,
remember quite enjoying it. It was a long time ago that I watched it. Who's the director for that?
no idea.
I'm actually
No idea.
curious now because I think it's someone. Let's see. This is relevant to the conversation. It is that was from 2010. David Fincher, and I enjoy Fincher's movies, and I really liked it too. So there you go.
Yeah, it surprised me how much I enjoyed it. And another one that I really enjoyed more than I thought I would, which we may talk about, we may not, because it skirts the line between auteur and not, which is the bike riders, which is the director basically took the idea of a diary of this bike gang in the US over a series of years, and he turned it into a film. And it's got Tom Hardy and Austin Butler as the main characters. And I thought it was fantastic, very slow paced, very minimal plot. We are just following the lives of these bikers and the idea of identity with them and the relationships that they have, and writing is, all Austin Butler's character has, and he thinks that he's above everything else, as my any other connections. I thought it was fantastic. And it sort of it skims the line because it's not made for a Hollywood audience. It's
Mhm.
made for the love of a particular thing, but it doesn't quite fit. And we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm making Rachel watch True Blood, so we started that. She's never watched it before, and we're 4 episodes in, so that's fun. She's like,
I feel
"This
like she'd
is,"
like it though.
she's like, "This is the worst." She tried,
Yeah.
she tried it ages ago, like when it first came out, and I think because it was so campy and dumb when it came
Yeah.
out, and it was hyped, she didn't like it. But now
Right.
you can just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's a
It's
brain
so
off
dumb.
show. Then she's having a good time with it now.
Cool.
Gaming I've done very, very little of. I started playing Little Sim World, which is on early access. I'm about 3.5 hours into it. It's okay. Not my favorite. That's it. That's it for gaming from me.
I know nothing about it. It's funny. I learn about all these little, cozy campy games from you. I don't know that they exist, and then you tell me. I was like, oh, it's
All I know is it took
an
me like
appropriate name.
3.5 hours to wash my clothes, which, like, I was like, do I want to do this for 20 hours? I'm unsure. But it is early access, so, there's stuff happening in the background of it.
Cool. Awesome. Nice. Yeah. Well, we'll talk movies for sure in a little bit. We'll dive deep into that. But yeah, sounds like you've been up to a little bit as well. And I'm curious by next episode what more movies you've watched since then.
I'll just talk about Shark Week.
Well, yeah,
20
great.
minutes. Yeah.
So, shall we?
Let's go.
Shall we get into the nitty gritty?
Yes, let's talk
I
about it.
so when Kris proposed this topic, I was just like that sounds amazing because I think it's funny how we have sort of differing I guess opinions or views on books a lot and games to an extent. I think movies are the thing we align with the most.
But I do want to ask a question about that. Before
Uh-oh.
we get into everything, no, because I'm curious. If you put Arthouse and Auteur next to each other, what do you prefer?
Well, so I will answer that. I think. Do you want to give a definition of what these are
I suppose that would be
before?
helpful for people who don't know.
Because they are a little bit like the terminology is a little bit fancy, a little bit French, So
I see what you did there. All right. So, do you want to take one and I'll take the other?
Sure.
I'll go with Arthouse. So they do have a lot of, I guess, grey. They cross over in quite a lot of ways, but there are differences between the two. If we're looking at Arthouse cinema, we're looking at things that stray from mainstream. They're not made for a Hollywood audience. They're made to express a unique creative expression of the director or of the group who are producing the film. It definitely prioritizes creativity and sometimes visuals, aesthetics over a mass market appeal. And they will tend to market to quite a niche audience. And I know that the people who are going to enjoy them may not going to be everyone. It's not going to be huge, releases in Hollywood, but the people who will enjoy them will really enjoy them, and people like us who pick them apart. So, um, something else with Arthouse is it also doesn't tend to follow a linear structure. So your storyline could be all over the place. It can be ups and downs. It doesn't tend to follow a story or a plot line. It will jump around with what it has, and it will push the boundaries of storytelling. A lot of the times, art house cinema will take a theme, and it will run with that theme, and you don't get to move away from it at all. Like it is in your face the whole time. Sometimes it's a bit questionable, like not in terms of questionable themes, although arguably sometimes, but it will tend to draw questions from you as the audience. Like you'll start questioning your belief systems about a particular thing. And we'll talk about the substance in a little bit, but I thought that is one that does it quite well, as there's a theme that's in your face, but it also challenges you as the viewer what your thoughts and feelings are about that particular topic. I guess that's art house in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to define it and really confine it as well, right? Because
Mm.
it can be a lot of different things. Especially when it comes to indie, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit too. Um, but I think, yeah, I think what you hit on there with the more like unorthodox filmmaking methods, I think you see a lot more of that in art house style films because they can be experimental and there's not really like the big budget, the dollar signs as
No,
much
they
as there's
definitely
the
tend to be smaller, lower budget,
yeah,
don't they? Yeah.
exactly. So for auteur, for auteur movies for cinema, so it's French for author. That's where the name comes from. And it's really more like the director has a particular style. It's like having the director's sort of stamp on the film. And it's interesting when it comes to auteur directors. You like a lot of them are mainstream in a sense because they're names that everyone knows. But not necessarily confined to that as well because it kind of just depends. And there's a lot of indie films that are the same way as well. But they're basically just putting their unique style onto these films. You can always tell by the way they look or the way that they're made, a certain approach. It might be like a storytelling method, or it might be just the cinematics of it. It might be the visual style. Usually it's sometimes it sort of strays away from mainstream movies as well, or at least the types of methods employed to create these movies, but not always, because there is like a really good example of an auteur director would be like Christopher Nolan, right? He has a very specific visual style and storytelling method in his work. But like that's one of the like what was Oppenheimer, right? Like one of the biggest movies ever made, I think, or especially of the year. But yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of like I like to think of it as like the director's stamp on the work, and you can just easily tell that it's their movie. Is that kind of?
It
Do
covers
you
it across
agree?
the board. Yeah, yeah, for sure. For me, like because I went down one of the rabbit holes I went down when I was researching for this episode was things that toe the line of being auteur and not. So things like what was the Elliot Page movie?
Close to you.
Close to You. Yeah, that toes the line of being auteur. Except Elliot Page wasn't the director, therefore it couldn't be. But he was involved in quite a lot of that story. And I just
I
went
think he was
like
a producer.
producer,
Like he had
yeah,
a hand in making it, but he didn't direct it.
yeah.
Um,
Normally, like as a sidebar, when you see executive producer on films, they don't really do anything. It's just a name to put on it.
sometimes.
Yeah. So producer is like they've done things for it. Executive producer is here's my name. I get a say. There's normally a stake
it
somewhere.
can vary
It can
very
vary.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely went down that rabbit hole. I
Mm.
When I think about the two of them, I think I probably prefer art house cinema, but appreciate auteur cinema. And I thought that you might be the opposite.
Yep, you got me. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
I think it
saw
would
it
be
in
that
your
way for
eyes
you as well.
just then when I
Yeah.
said it, and I was like, because we like the same
Yeah.
things, but we're normally opposites. I was like, if I'm
Yeah.
going art house, you're for
hmm
sure. Well,
hmm Yeah, I think it does depend. Like it's not a hard and fast rule for me. It just I think I just like good good movies. Movies that have a lot that you can unpick. I guess
Subjective team. Please like the movies that you
substantial
like. Yeah.
maybe.
Big on
Yeah.
themes. We're big on themes here, and
Yeah.
art, how cinema and auteur cinema tends to do that more than the mainstream.
100%. Um, yeah, so I guess that answers your question then. It's usually auto films that I'm mostly drawn to. And I know we'll talk about them in a bit when we go through some that we like and that we want to mention. But there's definitely more in the auto category than there is in art house for me that I've watched. Although there are quite a few that I'm interested in watching, and from your recommendations as well, I'm sure.
What's fun about this type of cinema, and I didn't realize that I really gravitated towards it for a long time, was that I used to take like my friends and family, like when I picked a movie back when cinemas were affordable, we I would take
Back
them
in the day,
I would take them to something super like dramatic, very heavy, very tense, very weird, like normally, and they would all come out and be like, "You are never choosing a movie again." I was like, "That was great. What are you talking about?"
yep.
Um,
Hmm.
Mother was one of them. Hereditary was another one. There was an Adam Sandler movie where he played a serious character. It was very theme driven. No, like that is not what I expected at all. And I was like, just read the blurb, like read the
Yeah,
thing before you go in.
the more you know, most people just when they want to go to a film, they just want to go have a good time.
Yeah,
I learned that also the hard way. So
it's like I want to be challenged. Like,
if I'm going to dedicate, 2.5 hours or whatever it might be to something, I want it to be, I don't know, substantial generally. Like, obviously not all the time, but I guess it's the same with all the stuff that we enjoy because we tend to want to pick it apart. I understand that's not everybody, and that's fine.
when you can't turn off the critical thinking part of your
Yeah,
brain, you're
yeah.
just
There's
like,
no
I
switch for that.
I need to judge something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. It, I'll put my
yeah,
judgment on that. Thank
let me
you.
put my judgment on that. Yeah, amazing. Um, so I guess that for us, because we do gravitate towards that sort of media and these big themes across the board. I mean, me so less with gaming, but why do you think it's important? Why would you say that art house and auteur cinema are important? What's their value for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's a couple things, and you'll probably have some of these the same answers as me as well. But I think it's partly the ability for non-mainstream or I guess underrepresented groups and people with all sorts of voices from all sorts of backgrounds, experiences to be able to tell stories in a way that's not just like Hollywood, mainstream, big budget cinema because like that has its place, right? Like I love it. Like I said, I loved John Wick. It was a great action film, and these massive big budget films, they're often very formulaic, right? And kind of rinse repeat. You've kind of seen one, you've seen a whole bunch. They're all the same. So I think it's important that there's different ways of telling a story because like culturally, like we have I guess similar to like US with Hollywood, it's very very US centric, and although the US is a very multicultural country, um, you often find the same stories being told, and they're from white heteronormative views often. So I think being able to have different voices, being able to tell these stories in different ways, is super important. So that's one big reason. But I think also like film as a whole has like a rich history and just experimentation. Like that's where it's come from. That's its roots. So I think that's also important, and that should always be the case. Like the minute that goes away, I think the medium itself dies. Right. That's ingrained into what films are.
And when that
Um,
goes away, AI has won, and we
don't even
we
get me
will not
started.
let AI win.
Oh boy. What about you? Do you agree, or do you have other reasons that you think are worth a
I
mention?
I think for me, it's like I I agree. Like I agree with the reasons that you've given. I want to think broadly about a number of different things all the time. And I think what art house and auteur cinema do together in different ways is challenge the viewer. Like I mentioned it earlier, and that's like my favorite aspect of it. And I also really enjoy that the themes that they tend to portray, and I liken this to classics a lot, is that the themes that we're talking about are so important to challenge, to challenge the norms, to challenge what is being fed to you, particularly, and I'm thinking about the American political climate right now. People are being fed a narrative,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are going, "Well, I don't know any better, so I'm going to jump on board with that." And then you get these pieces of art and these products of love, which are produced to challenge that norm, and then make someone turn away or walk away from that and go, maybe my view isn't the correct one. So I really enjoy art house cinema to challenge these big themes that are sometimes rooted in us in unconscious bias. And I found that with The Substance as well. And, I went and did the thing that I normally do, which is I went and read a lot about it because the theme of that movie is very in your face. But I then looked deeper into that meaning to not just be the portrayal of women aging in Hollywood, but to say just the portrayal of women. It can go so much deeper and challenge the individual viewer on that much deeper level. And I think that's my biggest takeaway. Like I find the value there is that I tend to walk away from these movies with something to think about and something to start a conversation with somebody else who may not view things the same way that I do. It's like, well, I won't tell you what to think, but go and see this piece of art if you want to and challenge yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I think satire does that very well, right? If you're
Yeah,
sort of
100%.
challenging the status quo, if you're trying to make a point, yeah, satire definitely does that. And absurdist, any kind of absurdist drama or comedy as well, which it definitely falls into that category. I found it hilarious. I don't know if you
It
found it
was
as funny as I
funny.
did.
It
It
was
was so
funny.
good.
It was
It was just
horrific, but
yeah, it
and
it got. I don't know because it's hard to talk about this one without spoilers. I think so. I mean I'm going to say cautious spoiler warning just in case we do let something slip. Um, but yeah, it was. I was cracking up.
I think both the actresses did that so well. Like it was so well acted. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know if Demi Moore won an award for it, but she
I
should have.
think
That
so. Yeah, but didn't she have a whole like segment at the beginning of the? They did like a fancy thing at the beginning of the
I
whatever
don't pay
film
attention
awards
to the
that
awards. I
was.
just judge what people are
Yeah,
wearing. You have that
the
much money
truth
and you're
comes
wearing
out.
that. Like
Yeah,
nothing gives
that's
me
the whole
more
point.
joy than watching people comment on celebrity like
Oh,
outfits
that's
and
all
these
I care
things.
about.
10 out of 10 content. Like that's what I'm turning my brain off to is watching like why is this woman wearing a garbage bag? Like why has he decided to come out in a $2,000 t-shirt? Like
It's a statement. It's art, baby.
it's
It's
art.
art. Yeah.
Unless it's Pedro Pascal at the Cannes, whatever film festival he's just at, where he's wearing like a douchelet. I was like, bro, but also
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
what you want to.
You do you. Yeah. You can do no wrong. Um, yeah. So yeah, the substance is definitely I don't know if I'd call it like it's isn't it made by who's the director? Coralie Fargate. So she's French, right?
She's French, yeah.
French director.
I believe so.
Um and I don't think she's done heaps of well, she did Sandman. I didn't know that. Okay. So like it's kind of hard to talk about like auteur cinema in the sense that like if you don't have a massive
Mm,
body of work, and especially if you don't have like if there's not a major link between all of them as well, it's kind of hard to put it in that category. But I don't know if I'd put it in. Is it art house? Is
it's
it?
art
I mean,
house. I would call it
it's.
art house.
I just call it like it's just satire to me, and I don't know. It's just it seemed to and this is where like I had a question for you actually about like where indie films come into this because traditionally I guess art house has its roots in independent films and this I mean it is I don't think it's a I mean I don't even know if they must have had a pretty massive budget for it though because it looks amazing. I don't know much about it. We'll have to read more, but I don't know. I struggle to put it in that category because it's just it was like, and this is where it's like slightly spoiler. It was like satirical absurdist splatterhouse,
I
basically.
actually hated the last 15 minutes. I was like, I don't really understand where we've gone here. Like, you had me right up until the thing on the stage, which I'm not going to give away, but like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Oh yeah.
And then, but it was also like super funny, like that it happened that way. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't like body horror. Like, I'm not a body horror guy. But then that scene was just so dumb.
Yeah, and I guess that's the point it's making, right? Because it just got into absurdist territory, and it did that really. I don't want to
That
say
is
well. It
okay.
just
So
did it a
that
lot.
is something that I do find with like art cinema, and A24 as a production studio is quite good for this. Is the endings are so fucked. Like I'm thinking of like
Yeah,
Love Lies Bleeding, and I was like, it had me
yeah,
until like the last 10-15 minutes.
yeah.
I was like,
It goes into
I have no idea what's happened then.
like drug trip territory sometimes with a lot of these movies. Where it's not. I don't mean that literally. I mean like that's kind of the vibe that you get from it. And it was kind of the same
Like
here.
when you turn the movie off, you're like, I need a cigarette.
You, yeah,
I need to do something else.
you end the film and you just kind of like you just. I mean, I did. I just kind of stopped and I was just like,
Hang on a minute.
"What
What?
did I watch? What was that?" Yeah. Um, but yeah, look, it made its point really well with the how
Yeah,
satirical it was.
it was it was very in your face, but at the same
Mm,
time was like, I challenge you, which I think the theme, my theme of this of this podcast episode. So I
yeah.
guess we've discovered that we both enjoy these art house and auteur. So what are your frustrations with mainstream?
Yeah, I think I touched on a couple. Did the predictability of like most mainstream cinema. I really like. I think that's why I stopped watching movies. To be honest, it was just I got bored of the same old stuff, and I really I typically don't like a lot of films that my friends and colleagues like. I mean, I'm discovering now, obviously, the episode with Jack, and someone like Jack who just has a lot of knowledge about films just in a general sense and can recommend things to you. That's a little different, but like my family and close friends, most of them don't like it's very much mainstream films, and that's all that they know. And I would, they'd recommend one to me, and I'd watch one, and I'd be like, it's okay, it's fine, it's good for an hour, but then I was bored, that kind of thing. So I think that's the biggest frustration for me. It's just massive budget films that say really not much at all and don't
Mm,
challenge you at all. But yeah, the discovery or rediscovery in my case of um, a lot of these films that have a lot to say. Um, and from that episode with Jack, and clearly it's the same for you because you've watched a bunch since. It's kind of it's inspiring to go. Oh, there's movies out there that are just actually just pure art. But yeah, it's mostly just the rinse repeat nature of Hollywood that's it's frustrating. How
yeah,
about you?
yeah, basically the same. It was either an adaptation of something that was already popular and already had an audience because it would make money, or
Yeah,
like I don't like Marvel movies. I really don't like superhero movies at all, or DC movies. I prefer DC over Marvel. And like my ex wanted to see every one of them. I was like, they're all the same. Like literally all of
yeah,
them. They're all the
and a
same.
lot of them are origin movies too, which I don't
Yeah.
like at all.
And then they wait 10 years and they do it again. It's like we're not getting new
It's true.
content. We're getting the same shit.
Yep,
I will say I did like Robert Pattinson's Batman, but that was very the the cinematography of that
it's very dark.
was very dark, very good, but it had its own tone. And I think out of all the superheroes, Batman's probably the one that I like the most because of that, because it has a very distinct tone and it does challenge like society and cultural norms. And even the Penguin um, was really good with Colin Firth. Like I really like that. So maybe I just like Gotham. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe because it's more grounded in like it's not reality, but it's like it is more real than
Yeah, yeah,
Marvel.
but
Yeah,
I definitely don't really like anything else. So I think my
yeah,
frustration comes from just make something original.
yeah.
Or so when I gravitate towards something that's not original, it tends to be a true story or a biopic that
Mm.
I'll watch. Um, so there was one that Daniel Radcliffe did, and it came up on like suggested watches, but I've seen it already called The Jungle, about a trek through the jungle with two friends, and they get stranded, and he has to try and survive to get to the next town just to be able to live, and the delirium that sets in. And he does, like, he's actually quite a good actor if you look at him outside of Harry Potter films, and he tends to
Oh yeah,
gravitate towards independent films or these biopics nowadays. He, you know, just does what he
yeah,
wants.
yeah.
And it was fantastic. And he was also in another one, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but about the apartheid, and he was fighting the apartheid in South Africa, and he was jailed, and it was about the escape. They got out, and they continued to fight racism in London. They ended up getting out and going to London and continuing to fight
Oh
it.
wow.
So I've always thank you, Jack, for making me think about myself and my choices. But I've always tended to gravitate towards that sort of movie. I'm the
Yeah,
same. Very rarely will I sit down and watch something mainstream for the sake of it, unless Rachel and Jim want to watch it. And
yeah,
most cases, I'll get an hour in. I'll be scrolling my phone because I've lost interest
yeah.
in
Doing
it.
something else. Yeah, it becomes a social activity at that point, which is a whole thing in itself. That's fine, but yeah, it's not why I personally choose to watch a film. Um, yeah, cool. Yeah, I kind of agree. So, so I'm curious. You've written in the notes here. How do you celebrate art house and auteur cinema? And you've mentioned, as examples, the Cannes Film Festival and A24 that you brought up before. I don't have a lot of experience or knowledge with this one, so I'm actually curious what that looks like in terms of like where people discover these films, how you like, do you go to events? Like, because I've never gone to like a film festival kind of event. I don't even know why. I don't have a good
I
reason, but yeah.
The only film festival esque thing I've done was I think in Goma in Brisbane, the Gallery of Modern Art, where they were doing I think it was a Jackie Chan exhibit, and
Oh,
they
cool.
were looking at his first films, like foreign films and translated
Mhm.
works. And that's the only one that I've sort of been to before. I would love to go to one, but also I suck at sitting still. And generally, when you go to a film festival, it's like a day and you're watching 3 to 4 movies back to back. And I don't know that my ability to sit still for that long actually exists. Um, like when Jack mentioned that he wanted to see a couple of movies in a day, I was like, how?
Yeah,
I
how
don't
I know.
understand how people do that.
Yeah.
So I keep up to date with the Cannes Film Festival, but I also like this is super nerdy. Have A24 on my like bookmark tabs to
Oh, cool.
see when they get movies out or when they release because I that's a studio I tend to gravitate
Yeah,
towards and enjoy
yeah,
most of the things I've seen. And they're all independent films and they were created to celebrate independent filmmaking. So they're like, we won't be doing remakes. We don't do mainstream. Um, I haven't heard of this other one that you put in there out in a film aspect.
yeah,
I've heard of them in a game aspect, but yeah, I think film festivals, and I keep up to date with a lot of news on various social media platforms about films that are coming out because I've worked on a film myself. Um, I am quite interested in the background more so than the actual film. Like I like knowing about what's
sure.
happening behind the scenes, and then that will gauge my interest. But also, everyone has done this. Sitting in a streaming service and just scrolling and flicking through and not
Oh
picking
boy.
anything and like adding to your watch list. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
and then going down the rabbit hole of I wonder who made this because that looks interesting. And then yeah,
yeah. I've actively had to like stop myself from. So I don't do it now because it's stupid. Like when you think about how much time you waste doing that, it's
100%.
stupid. So now, if I'm gonna watch a film, I find out before I even go into one of those
You don't
events.
just Russian roulette it.
Yeah,
Open up,
no,
scroll, stop it.
sometimes.
That's what I'm watching today.
Yeah, I try really hard. Um, yeah, the other one you mentioned that I wrote down here was Annapurna Pictures. So they're a gaming studio. They actually do across the board all media, so games, films, TV. But I had a look because I was looking at like indie studios, what that looked like other than A24, which I didn't even know about until Jack brought it up, and I'm just like, and then now that I've looked through the list, I'm like, yeah, I've watched a bunch of these, right? I didn't know. But the other one was Annapurna, and I haven't watched any of the films that they've put out, and I'm not familiar with any of them. But they're like super specific indie, very kind of this kind of auteur or art house cinema. So I'm actually curious now that now that I know about A24, and now that I know that there's a bunch of these that exist for the sole purpose of making indie films accessible to everyone and for the love of it and to celebrate it, I'm like super keen to just go through these catalogs of films and just watch a whole bunch of them.
They did Blade Runner.
Yeah, well, exactly. So you'll find this is what I find interesting because when we were talking about this topic, I kind of just assumed they'd be smaller, lower
Mm.
budget, kind of independent, very small films. And that's not necessarily the case. And this is where it kind of gets a bit hazy as to how you categorize a lot of these because, as I mentioned before, Christopher Nolan being, very, everyone has watched almost a Christopher Nolan film, and and he makes so much money at the cinema, with these massive budgets. But like he is very much an auteur director because you can tell just visually and the way he tells a story. So when you kind of start bringing these other directors into it, a couple of examples that you've written here as well, Wes Anderson, where's my list gone? Stanley Kubrick, like these massive names, and they have a very specific style. It starts to get a little bit hazy because some of these are massive movies. So anyway, now I've also gone down the rabbit hole with a lot of these. So it is cool to see, the extremes and a lot of these smaller films alongside these massive ones as well.
But you
So
have to wonder if maybe like I know, for example, like Nicole Kidman as an actress, she's very big on making sure that every 18 months she works with a female director. So
oh,
that
cool.
she's
I
not
didn't know
just
that.
doing movies made by, you know,
Mhm.
males.
Old
But then
white dudes. Yep.
yeah, and we tend to see the same actors and actresses in these independent films every so often. Like I know
Mhm.
Kristen Stewart did it for a while after the success of Twilight because she wanted to just do something that meant more to her than this mainstream cinema. And I think we see a lot of big name actors come into these independent films, and I wonder if that's for the love of it, they love the art rather than the
Yeah.
paycheck. So I was looking at a couple of directors that have done art house but aren't considered art house. Like I can't pronounce this guy's name, del Toro,
Oh
who
yeah. Yeah.
made things like The Shape of Water, which I would consider art house, made things like Pan's Labyrinth, which I would consider art house, but then has done things like Pacific Rim, which was made for a huge budget,
Yeah.
huge audience, lost so much money. but um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like do they couple it because one is a paycheck and one is something that they genuinely love to do? But I think it's the same with any job, right? You do
Yeah.
things because you have to do them, and then you do other stuff because you love to do it.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, especially a lot of these actors that are choosing to do these films, they're very artful films,
Mm,
and maybe we'll talk about the Lighthouse in a minute because that's very much one of those. Um, a lot of them are like very much like theater trained, right? Like
yeah,
they have the acting chops. They're very good at their craft, and then you see them in these massive, big budget Hollywood flicks. So I'm sure there is a lot of that they must have to deal with themselves as well because yeah, you've got to get paid. It's a job,
I've
but
never
also
seen
there's the love of the
William.
art.
I've never seen William Defoe as much as I have going down this rabbit hole of art house
Oh, for
cinema
sure.
because he
Yeah,
tends to work with the same directors when he works for them, but they're like all art house or independent directors.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I've seen this guy's face so many times.
yeah. He's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So should we talk about the Lighthouse a little bit because that kind of falls into this as well.
What
And
a
and
what a
I
film!
yes. How do you even describe this? Because I don't know.
Uh, Horny Robert Patterson wants to fuck a siren. Like it's basically what I got from it. But what I thought was really cool about it is they actually filmed it on like a black and white camera, like an old black and white camera.
Yeah, you can
Um,
tell, right? It's just like
oh, it's
those
grainy.
blacks. It's just
It's
yeah, it's
so
so good.
dark, but
Yeah,
um, like it was a piece of art.
yeah,
Robert Patterson's
yeah.
accent in that film was not a piece of art.
I thought they did a really,
No, they
really good
did.
job, both of them.
They
Yeah.
did. The this is Chris going down rabbit holes. The accents are both Maine accents, but one is from a different part of Maine. I thought that was
Yep.
crazy.
Very
Just a
good.
really slight
Yep.
differences in the inclination. Like how
Yeah.
hard you have to study that to make sure you're getting it
Yeah. Yep.
correct.
That must be one of the hardest things to do dialects, with that much nuance because but it came across like that was one of the things I picked up immediately. I was like, wow, this is I didn't expect this. So it kind of caught me off guard. But yeah, it's shot in 4:3. It's yeah, it's black and white. You've got these very like it's the cinematography though, like even though
It
it's
was
it has that look to
stunning.
it, it's so
It's
good.
so
The
good.
and the shadow play at work,
Yeah.
like it's just so good. And then there'd be these outdoor scenes that are just like stark white because of the brightness of the sun, and the cloud coverage and stuff. And yeah, it was just visually stunning, but then also the way the story was told as well.
It was interesting because the story in theory is quite linear. It's this descension into madness from isolation that
Yeah.
is probably the best way I could describe it. So you have two men who have been given 4 weeks to run a lighthouse, and one of them is wants the light, which is William Defoe's character, and one of them is like the grunt who has to do all the bullshit jobs. And there's a very distinct power dynamic between these two men. And then full spoilers for this movie. Like if you haven't watched it, good luck to you. But if you do, but towards the end, and they get on each other's nerves, and like they're living in quite close proximity, but they are very much alone on this island. So visions of this mermaid woman come into play for Rob Patterson's character. William Defoe's character has some sort of experience with something with tentacles up,
Yeah, there's a lot of
like the
Greek
light,
mythology
yeah,
references
in
going on as
the
well,
in the
Poseidon kind of
lighthouse.
thing.
Um, and then it just comes to blows at the end of it. And like how much can one person take before they turn around and just snap? And it was all very thematic and played with throughout the whole thing, but I didn't feel like it built and built and built. Like it was quite volatile throughout the whole thing, except for like maybe the first half an hour when they start to get to know each other.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was great, but I needed a minute after
Yeah.
it.
I think I preferred I think I preferred the first half a lot more though, because it kind of did that thing where you're not really sure whether it's fantasy or
Mm,
whether it's just, what's going on in the mind. And I usually love that kind of that theme at play, but I think I preferred watching the first half where they were just building their relationship and what that looked like and how that evolved. And that was fascinating just because again the accents and the cinematography and everything. But then it kind of took a turn, and I wasn't really sure. Like, I understood the point it was making. It was maybe a little heavy-handed, perhaps. I don't know. But then
probably the
again,
last half an hour, I would say.
yeah, for sure. But that said, the substance was also very heavy-handed, and I
Yeah.
thought that was good. So I'm not sure where I fall on that, but I'd say this one is definitely worth watching. Like I went into it not knowing what to expect, and it was good.
I would say that now that I've watched a couple of Robert Eggers, who's the director of this one's films, he has a really unique style, which is the whole point, right, of auteur cinema, is the person that you're watching, who's created this. I'm trying to think of the other one that he made that I've watched.
Have you watched The Witch? Was his like
Yeah,
first one? I haven't
yeah.
watched that. Yeah.
Watched that one. I didn't like that one as much. Just I wasn't as engaged with it as the Lighthouse. Um, but the style and the way that he plays with light in particular is quite similar, even though that one is in color and the other one is in black and white. I think if you watch the Vitch, you will pick up that it's the same director. Like it's quite a unique flavor to him. Um, but I find that, and I haven't watched any Wes Anderson films, but I find that you can tell a Wes Anderson film. Like
has,
if you're
has a
watching
very
a
distinct
trailer
look.
before, even before any names come up on the screen, you're like, oh, I know who's directed this film. And he's more art house, I would say. Oh, art house? I don't know how
I
heavy
mean,
handed he is. I think he maybe toes the line between both.
kind of both. I don't know. I still, for me in my mind, and maybe this is not necessarily the case, but I still put art house with indie so very
Mm.
much that it's hard for me to separate that. But definitely auteur in the sense that like you can tell a Wes Anderson film, I suppose. The same with Darren Aronofsky though, and I didn't realize I'd completely forgotten Black Swan. I don't know if you've seen Black
Oh,
Swan,
yeah, I've seen this one.
and I loved that, and you can absolutely tell, that kind of that look to it, the way that story is told, and how it all goes in the end. It goes down this meandering kind of I don't know what you would even call that, but it's kind of the same thing where it all kind of falls apart in the end, and it's the
I think
same kind
that's
of
the
story that he
point.
tells.
Like, it's the, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's one of the aspects of auteur cinema is that it has repeated themes from the director. Like they have a theme that they like to explore and experiment with, and that may be done in several different ways. But it all, and that theme that Black Swan had, this, I'm trying to remember it. It's been a very long time. Like perfection into
Yeah.
whatever happened to it. Like I don't want to give spoilers away if people haven't
Yeah,
watched
no.
it. It's a
That
very
one's
good.
that
It's a
one's
very good movie, but it's
yeah.
and Natalie Portman did it so well as well.
Yeah.
Also, glad
It was
she's
great.
having a bit of an actress comeback. I think there's a
What's
couple of
she in at the moment?
Apple movie with
Oh,
John
yeah.
Krasinski in that look actually was kind of fun, mainstream but fun. I think streaming services have also opened the gateway for independent films in a way,
Yeah.
maybe even TV shows, but then they get cancelled.
TV is a whole
Whole
a
different
whole thing,
whole
right?
whole game.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So, should we talk about some specific ones then? Because I do have a few that I would like to mention, just ones that I've seen that stick in my mind. And I'm curious to know your list as well. Um, I've lumped all mine together, to be honest, because they're all kind of I don't even know. Like we've sort of touched on. I'm not really sure where that line is drawn between the two anyway. So for me, I just put a whole bunch in a big list. But yeah, I'd love to share a few and hear a few of yours.
Yeah, go for it.
Have you watched Memento?
No,
Okay, Christopher Nolan film. This is like his second film. Um, Probably one, might even be my favorite film ever made. Maybe.
that's a bit
And
cool.
I'd forgotten all about it till we went down this this rabbit hole. Yeah, that was very much a uh, experimental storytelling, non-linear storytelling. It's about memory and memory loss, I guess.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I
Mm,
haven't watched it.
yeah. Um, I haven't watched it in years. I'm actually curious if it still holds up. But yeah, that one absolutely like that's both, right? Like I'd consider that to be both. Loved that movie. I recommend that one to everyone. I think it's fantastic. And also there's a movie called Primer. I don't know if you've heard of Primer.
I vaguely.
Yeah, it's about time travel. And this one I was curious whether it would even fall into this category because it's a director I don't know any of his other work. His name's Shane Carruth. But I realized, and I'll mention a few more in a minute, a lot of these films that I love are basically directorial debuts
Mm.
or the second film. So Memento is Christopher Nolan's second film. Primer is a directorial debut. And I'll just name drop two more. There's Brick by Rian Johnson, directorial debut, and Moon, same, right? So these are like first films by a lot of directors. For some reason, these are some of my favorite movies, and I
And
don't
they make
know.
money and they're like going mainstream.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what happens. Yeah, that's literally what happens. And the I don't know. There's something about like the artfulness of these first films, maybe because they don't have the big budget maybe those limitations are what make them amazing.
I've just gone,
But
is Saw Arthouse, like the first one.
oh,
A super low budget. It wasn't meant to make any money. It was made in one room. Next minute, just taken off and is now a franchise.
I haven't watched enough of like that style of horror film for me to pass judgment on where you would draw the line because I
Mm,
just don't like them. I
that's
love
fair.
that
I
first
really
film.
like the second one. I mean, nowadays I'm a bit more squeamish, but I thought the second one was quite clever. And
Okay.
then, so after they made a bunch of money, and then the themes of the second one, I quite enjoyed exploring selfishness, and I think that's a theme that comes up in horror or arty horror a little bit. And then
Yeah.
it just got wild, like it just got really interesting and gross.
Yes.
My sister loves
Yeah,
them.
it
She
can.
loves a slasher, so you know
Yeah, I can't do it. I wish I could, but yeah, not for me.
that was just interesting. On maybe we could do an episode on like first films versus last film or latest film
Yeah,
for some of these
yeah.
directors.
Sounds like one that involves a bit of homework, but I'm up for it. This was fun.
Yeah, that's 2026.
Yeah, yeah, not
When
anytime
we've
soon.
watched, I don't know, two more movies each. Um, I it's interesting that you like the first films. I quite like a lot of, and I didn't get the directors. I don't think. Um, the director who
Oh, I
did
completely forgot to mention. So Moon is Duncan Jones as well.
Yorgos Lanthimos, I think is his
Yes.
name. I quite
Yes.
I didn't realize that it was him that did it, because I was looking at Poor Things, which I really, really loved last year, and it does have some criticisms and fairly fair criticisms if you care to look into them. But the cinematography, the lighting, and the styling of that movie, coupled with its themes, was fantastic. Again, William Dafoe turned up because no one's
Mhm.
shocked at this point. Um, and Emma Stone, and Emma Stone has done a few of his. One of them being The Favorite, which I also quite enjoyed, and that had Olivia Colman in it as well, and Rachel Weisz. That was quite good. And there is one that we're going to get to, movies on our radar, but he's also got one on my radar as well. But I I watched on a plane, not a movie to watch in public with children around you, because there's lots of sex scenes in it.
Take note, people.
Yeah, just also don't watch The Substance in
Oh
public, in
no,
a public
that's not a
space. Don't.
no, absolutely not.
I mean, it's not gratuitous, but there's like a lot of nudity. So
There's a lot of things in that film.
there's
So
many
yeah.
many things, and blood. It's just that scene in the bathtub, the first one. I was like, I was doing this. I couldn't do it. I was so squeamish. Um, yeah, and The Substance I enjoyed, The Lighthouse I enjoyed. Mother is probably my favorite art house cinema,
Yeah, which
or
I haven't
piece of
seen.
art.
I was hoping to watch it for this discussion, didn't get around to it, but I
I
will watch that one.
don't want to tell you what it's about,
Yeah, don't.
because I really enjoyed it, and I came away from the cinema going, "What the fuck has just happened
Mhm.
to me?" And then you go and you look at what it's about, and you realize that that act is the point of the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
which I think is such a powerful thing to do. To have someone go, "I need to find out what this is about," and they're like, "Gotcha."
yeah,
Also, we just
yeah.
proved ourselves right. So,
Yeah, the audience participation part
mm,
of it, like whenever you can do that to make a point, is really cool. Yeah, that kind of stuff I love generally.
I was
Very excited
talking
for that one.
to, maybe I'll talk about this off the podcast, it's a different thing, but I was talking to a author last night who writes interactive stories to make the audience choose.
I started watching this the
Yeah.
interview, and yeah,
I'm
that's
like, that's
interesting.
so cool to me. Like,
Yeah,
my brain doesn't work that way, but amazing. Um, yeah, I think the other ones that, like, I like The Lighthouse, I like The Substance, I liked The Bike Riders as well, but again, that it's under the auteur cinema like umbrella, but because it was linear, because it didn't have a particular style of cinematography, I don't think it fits into that category personally. Um, yeah, I think Mother is my favorite. Hereditary was also great. Rachel still hasn't forgiven me for taking her to the cinema to see that one, because she doesn't enjoy art house cinema. Um, but Toni Collette did such a good job.
he's good in everything. I'm pretty sure.
She's so good. She's good in everything. Toni Collette's in it. It's going to be at least, an okay movie with her parts.
Yeah, she's like one of those chameleon actors that's just like she
Yeah.
can take in any role. Have you watched Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes.
Did you love it as much
I
as I loved it?
loved it.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought
That was up there with Don't Look Up for me. Like
mm,
those are pretty
yeah.
on par for me. That's another A24 film. That's probably I think that's their biggest grossing film.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Good.
I watched it on a plane.
Nice, nice.
That's like where I watch most of my movies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That shot up to one of my favorite films ever. I
Mhm.
just I loved everything about it, and I need to rewatch it. Um,
I think you'd
have
pick
you
up
watched?
more on rewatch movies
Yeah,
like that,
probably.
where
Oh,
there's a lot happening,
yes.
the whole time. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to cut you off.
No, and I think that's a good point to make, and that's why I'm excited to watch it. Um, one I didn't realize, also an A24 film, uh, by the same director that did Annihilation. So Alex Garland, Ex Machina. I don't know
No,
if you've watched that
that's too
one.
sci-fi for me, so I didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
Yeah,
a
it's
bit
bit
sci-fi,
sci-fi for me.
very sci-fi. But I loved that one as well, and now I'm seeing the threads that sort of connect the way that story was
Mm,
told and the themes and stuff. So yeah, a lot of this was me discovering, oh, I've actually watched a whole bunch of A24 films. But then also, like, just to mention one as well that it's a big giant question mark. And this is where it gets into, I mentioned before about auteur directors and where like how you actually categorize that if they haven't made a lot of films.
Mm.
There's this term that some I don't know who's come up with this one, and I hadn't heard of it, but the absent auteur, and mostly for the director of Donnie Darko because he hasn't really made
Yeah.
any films.
But then does that go into art house because you've got one piece of cinema?
Maybe it could very well be, and this is
Or
where
it
I
could
don't
just
think
be an
it's
auteur movie, I guess, rather than an auteur
yeah
director.
yeah maybe,
I
but
guess,
that's it's very distinct. I was gonna say like visually,
yeah,
like everyone knows what that you
yeah.
know most people have watched that film by.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess the not the general rule, but you tend to find that these directors tend to make quite a lot. Like they want their tone, they want their theme, they want their personality in these films. So they do a lot of them. But it's interesting because there are a few that go, I want to do something of substance. Not that
Mm,
what they make isn't, just I want to make something different, something creative, and then go
yeah
and do the other things. Interesting. I don't know. I don't have an
yeah
answer to that question.
yeah. I know it was just on my list as like that's a very arty kind of film, but also like how do you categorize it? Because it's a big, I think it's a cult classic. It was an indie film. Um, One I do want to quickly mention because you mentioned Yorgos Lanthimos, The Lobster.
I've not watched
That's
that one.
it's
Is it wild? His movies are a bit wild.
yeah, it's just totally bizarre in the best possible way, but also you know those films where you like intellectually they're doing something for you, but like you're watching them going, I feel weird watching this. That was The Lobster for me.
What? Like,
Yeah, yes. Worth watching, but it's just yeah, it
I
was
feel it
totally bizarre.
about philosophical, like anything when I read it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
What?
like. I like it, but I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tickling something in your
Yeah.
brain and you know, it's doing something, but like yeah, it's an uncomfortable viewing experience and at least that one was for me. And speaking of uncomfortable viewing experiences, if you know, we mentioned Darren Aronofsky, Requiem for a Dream. That's a film I will never watch again. I was young when I watched that film, but yeah, I don't think I could revisit it. It's about basically drugs and
I've heard of
ruining one's
it, but I
life with
haven't. Yeah, I haven't watched
yeah.
it.
But yeah, those kinds of films, like very much auteur films where you see the director's stamp on them. But yeah, I don't think I could ever watch that one again.
Like Tarantino, I feel like he's got a very distinctive style as well. And like, I don't
Very
love the
much.
guy, like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know how I feel about him as a human being. But his movies do tend to have a very distinct storytelling style.
yeah,
I probably preferred him when he was doing darker, less mainstream things, but he does have a very unique way of presenting his films.
yeah, yeah. I think that came up with the conversation with Jack,
Mm.
and I think we both agreed that it's a director that we can both respect but not
But
really
yeah,
enjoy.
just don't like him like
Yeah,
as a human
yeah.
being.
I I I find like I liked the Kill Bill movies. I guess he does a lot
Very
with music as
early.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The later ones not so much either.
You have a question for me about found footage films? I hate them. You?
Fair point. No, I guess my question is, where does that come into it? Because a lot of those are very like if you think of Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity is another one. Um, would you consider that to be like art house because it's unconventional storytelling, very unorthodox storytelling?
I don't
A
know.
lot of these are indie movies at the
Yeah.
time.
I guess like Paranormal Activity, the first one, again, I would argue, same way I would argue that Saw potentially is an art house film because it was low budget. It wasn't made for a mainstream, you know, audience. It was made as an experiment to see what it could do. And
Yeah,
then it was ridiculously successful because people like to be scared. There is something about being jump scared. And I saw it in the cinema and I was like, I don't get it. And then like she gets pulled from the bed. I was like, okay, whatever. But it took off and it made many, many movies. So I would say like the first one potentially, but then not the franchise of because it
yeah,
then towed the
sure.
line of mainstream. And I think by the time they got to like three or four, they had massive budgets
Yeah,
with what they were doing. Whereas
yeah,
I think the beauty of a lot of these projects is that they're purely for love, and that's why they're made on such low budgets. Actors, even big time actors, will often take very little money for these movies because they just want to do something they're passionate about.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think when it first came out, like it was I probably got more experience with the Blair Witch Project,
Mm.
to be honest, and like I remember that being like a smash hit in the sense that everyone was watching it and talking about it. But yeah, low budget, super like independent film, and it took off.
I think.
But I think there's something to be said for that kind
Mm,
of storytelling. I think you have to say that that's kind of that experimental storytelling is pretty artful
I
for
would say the Blair Witch like is more art house and paranormal
yeah.
activity because it is, like you said, experimental. I mean, I can't watch them because I can't do I get motion sickness, so shaky
Shaky
cam.
cam,
And like
yeah.
Cloverfield was the same. Like
Ah,
anytime there's shaky cam, or like there was even a part in The Substance which was sort of shaky cam. And like I don't know if they were going down a hallway or something, and I couldn't look at it because
right.
I was like, I will throw up. So
Yeah.
I
Fair.
best not be doing that. But I have watched the Blair Witch in like stints because of that. Yeah, I would call it. It toes a
Yeah.
line. I would say yes.
Yeah, toes the line. Yeah.
If I had a gun to my head, yes. Art house cinema.
Yeah, fair.
Um, you mentioned Don't Look Up, and I know we're like over time on this one because we got excited about the topic, but it is probably my favorite movie of the last 10 years or so. And that is something that toes the line for me personally because the director had a lot to do. And the theme of that movie, which is Americans are dumb, like quietly, when when it comes to global warming and like these very real global threats and holding on to a belief system for the sake of holding on to a belief system which isn't actually intelligent. I thought that movie challenged that so well, and it was a very ballsy move from a big mainstream standpoint to go, you're all dumb. This shit is happening around you.
Yeah.
Pay attention to it. And everyone's
Yeah.
like, not real.
Yeah.
Global
Yeah.
warming, not a thing.
Another thing, yeah, it takes satire to the nth degree. Like it is the most satirical film that I think I have ever seen. And the way it goes towards the end. And it's funny because so the director is Adam McKay, and I'm not super familiar with Adam McKay, but he's done Anchorman, Step Brothers, a lot of comedy. And it's always interesting when I see these directors because like I'm not a big comedy, I'm not a huge fan of comedy films. It's definitely not the mainstream ones. But when you take a comedy artist, whatever they do, so a director in this case, and give them a theme or they have a theme to
Mm,
tell, like a story to tell, a point to make. I think those go together really well, and then you
yeah,
get something like
100%.
Don't Look Up. Yeah,
It was fantastic. Like it's such a good movie.
yeah,
Um,
I'd watch that one again.
I was looking up again, rabbit hole, looking up things that had a mainstream release that towed the line, and I came with Saltburn that was released in 2023. That was huge. That was huge as an arty movie, and I was like, is it though, or is it not? And it's not because it was made for a mainstream audience. Like it was released to a mainstream market, but it does have heavy thematics, and it does follow a linear storyline, but it's not necessarily plot heavy. It's just like the experiences of this person and this family and what happens, but there's no plot, there's no huge drive to the plot. It's very slow. So while we get there, it's very slow, whereas it misses a lot of beats that mainstream cinema has. And I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the
Oh,
acting
did
was
you?
great, the
Wow,
cinematography was great. Um,
I hated it.
I'm such a simp for Rosamund Pike. Literally anything. So interesting that you didn't like it, but I had a really good time with it. And
Yeah, I
it
don't know.
towed the line because it was visually quite different to other
Yeah,
things that were happening in
yeah.
mainstream, but it was very slow.
It reminded me a lot of one I've mentioned before that I actually loved. I think it's I want to say a better version of this kind of story, which is Ryan Johnson's Brick, because it's kind of
I've heard
taking the
you, yeah, you
same
have talked about it a
concept.
few times,
Yeah.
but
And it does the same thing where visually it's very distinct. It has this look
mm,
to it, and it's a bit weird and a bit off. You can't quite place it. It's doing something intentionally to make you feel a bit off guard. You just there's something going on visually with it. And it's not just the visuals as well. It's like the
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 score?
set design and
Yeah.
the music plays a part too. All of that to make you feel a bit weird about what you're watching. It's not quite real life in the way that you know it. And it makes you puts you off guard a little bit. So then when it does tell the story, it's like a 1-2 punch, and you kind of get
Mm.
that. It hits you more. But I'd probably, I mean, Saltburn to me was basically just a really arty thriller. I found, and I I don't know, I had a problem with the story, but I think it was shown at a film festival. I'm pretty sure it
Yeah.
was. I don't
Because
know.
I thought it was initially until I looked into it.
Right?
Um, I would love to find more films like that. So I'll go and watch Brick, but that have something slightly off kilter, and you don't know what it is, but you feel uneasy throughout the whole thing. Because
Yeah, uneasy
Saltburn
is a good word. Yeah.
definitely did that. But we have been going for a while on this episode, so to wrap it up and to close it off, are there any art house slash auteur films that you are interested in watching, and what are they?
Yeah, there's a few. None of them are new. Because again, we've gone down rabbit holes. I've discovered all these films that I need to watch and just never got a chance to. On the top of the list, I'm actually curious if you've ever watched this one, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, I watched it. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, and I think I've watched bits of it, but I've never watched the whole thing. That's right at the top of the list because
It's
I've heard such good things.
it's a heavy movie, so be
Yeah,
mentally prepared
yes,
for
that's
that one.
partly why I haven't watched it. Yeah, so that's at the top. Also The Whale, the newer one from Darren
Oh,
Aronofsky.
that was fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
watched that on a plane
of course you did.
last year, but I don't get emotional very often, but I cried at the end of that one.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I've heard a lot, and yeah, that one I need to see. Um, and I think the other one was Being John Malkovich, Spike Jones. I never watched it. A lot of these that kind of fell through the cracks for me, but a part of very very auteur especially. But yeah, they're the main ones. And there's another one, Lost in Translation. It's a
Oh yeah.
Sophia Coppola. Yeah, that one I never watched either. So those ones that everyone's watched except me
Mhm.
apparently.
I don't
Um,
remember that one very well, but I have seen it a
mhm.
long, long time ago. It's been out for a very long time. I want to say it's pushing at least 20 years of
Yeah,
being out.
a lot of these are quite old.
I've
Anyway, that's my list.
I've only got two, and they're new. They're fairly new. One was last year, one was this year. The first one is Queer, which is Daniel Craig, and that's A24. I don't know who the
A24.
director A24. Yeah, what did I say? It's been recording for a
It's another
while.
studio.
That's a
Yeah.
different, yeah. That is an A24 production. I don't know who the director is, but I I'm just interested in these types of storytelling, and I love when big actors go, you know what, that's a story worth telling. And I know that LGBTQIA plus stuff, although it seems to be going backwards now, but it wasn't as taboo as it was, and we get to celebrate that through different ways. So I'm looking forward to that, and artistically, the cinematography also looks good, and I because I'm quite visual, I will gravitate towards something that looks really good to me, and that does. And the other one is a Yagas Lathemos. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're butchering his name,
We're
I'm sure,
butchering
but
that
it's
guy's
fine.
name, which is Kinds of Kindness, which again has Emma
Mm,
Stone in it. And that I saw the trailer for that after I watched Poor Things, and that's on my list to watch as well. But I'm sure there are plenty that because I tend to gravitate towards that sort of cinema anyway. I don't know if
yeah.
Midsummer would be counted. It's a horror. It has a unique artistic style, but I don't know whether that would be too mainstream to consider it in either one of these categories. But that's on the list as well.
Cool. I feel like horror and arty movies go very much hand in
Well,
hand, and I'm just not a big horror buff, so I'm not sure, but
it's interesting because I feel like sci-fi also gravitates quite well
yeah,
towards themes. And as I was
definitely.
talking to the author after the chat last night, I was like, I'm now realizing I'm gravitating towards more theme-heavy sci-fi
Mm,
because it can play around with it, and I think horror does as well. It plays
yeah,
around with themes quite well. Yeah. So shall we wrap
cool.
it up for
I think we probably
for
should. We've been
okay?
running a while. This has been
We
fun though.
It's been a
My
good
list is
one.
just
We can
Exploded.
blame Jack.
Yes. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. So if you want to watch videos of the podcast, you can head on over to Genre Blender Podcast on YouTube. If you are an audio only listener, you can go ahead and find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever one you prefer, and you'll find the show notes. So all of the movies that we mention in the description box down below for each episode. Sorry, Ryan, in advance. We talked about a lot.
You're doing some of that too. We'll
I've
do our
got a
best.
list. We'll do our best.
Good.
If you want to follow us, you can follow us over at Genre Blender Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, which we don't really use. So if you want to follow us, you can. But maybe we'll do something over there one day. Or you can visit genreblenderpodcast.com for all of our social media links across the web. If you want to find Ryan or I, our social media links will be down below, so you can check us out there.
And to all the world hoppers out there, we wish you safe travels, and we'll catch you in the next episode, which I did not prepare, but I think is that the Pride Month episode, or is that the one after?
Yeah, we'll do something with Pride Month next episode.
Cool. So stay tuned for that. But till then, take care all.
See ya.
See ya.